Night has fallen, and the moon is a glowing golden orb in the black sky. See how it shines on the dark back roads of America, and on one road in particular. Come with us, and we'll take a walk down the Moonlit Road and listen to bone-chilling tales told by some of the nation's best storytellers. Join us now and simply step out, for the night is waiting and the moon is full.
This is Kathy Camerlin, and the story I'm going to tell you is called Lizzie, Ghost of Brinkley Female College. Memphis is a town chock full of ghost stories, but the tale of Lizzie, the ghost of Brinkley Female College, might be the most bizarre and controversial of all. According to legend, Lizzie wasn't a ghost trying to frighten. Rather, Lizzie was just looking for a living being to help right a wrong she left behind on this earth. And for this task, Lizzie selected a young student named Clara Robertson. Our story begins in 1871, when Claire was just 13 years old. Brinkley Female College had opened just a couple of years prior, advertising in local papers as the biggest college in Memphis and the cheapest college in the world. For bright and mannered young girls, it offered courses in English, Latin, and numerous foreign languages, along with a music program. By all accounts, Claire fit the bill of a model student. She was an intelligent and vibrant young girl with blonde hair and vivid blue eyes. The college occupied a two-story mansion that once stood on South 5th Street. In a neighborhood of stately mansions, Brinkley Female College stood out with its Old South grandeur. It sat proudly on a slight hill, protected by an iron gate, its grand antebellum entrance consisting of 6 towering columns. Clara's father was a prominent local attorney named J.R. Robertson. He'd likely heard the town whispers about this prestigious school, that there was some sort of curse stemming from a bankruptcy back when the school was a private residence. But he dismissed such tales as neighborhood gossip. Besides, Claire would only be attending as a day student. One day, Claire was practicing piano alone in the upstairs music room when she sensed a presence. She paused, looked up, and froze. For there before her stood an emaciated 8-year-old girl. A moldy and tattered pink dress hung off her decaying flesh. Her pitiful eyes stared at Claire from sunken sockets. Her hair was long, filthy, knotted. Claire noticed a strange reddish stain on the front of her dress. She also noticed she could see right through her. The girl silently reached her bony hand out to Clara. Clara screamed and ran from the room. She jumped into bed with the sleeping student, hoping the ghostly figure would go away. But the horrid girl floated after her into the room, her hand still outstretched. Clara hid under the covers, tears streaming down her face, waving frantically as the ghost moved closer and closer, touching a pillow near Clara's head. Then she vanished without a word. Clara told the story to her classmates, who cruelly mocked her. She bolted home and told her father she would never return to that school. But her father calmed her down, telling her she was likely tired from the endless piano instruction and was just seeing things. Or the other girls were playing tricks. After all, she was smart enough to know there was no such thing as ghosts. So Clara returned to school. As several days passed without incident, she believed it really was a prank. But then one day, as she practiced in the music room with other students present, the skeletal girl materialized again. Claire ran away screaming and found one of her teachers, Miss Jackie Boone. Miss Boone treated her students with kindness and respect and listened patiently to Clara before telling her, "It's okay. Just go back and ask her what she wants." Miss Boone walked Clara back to the room and watched as she confronted the pitiful spirit she saw in front of her. The specter pointed toward the window with her bony finger. With a perturbed whisper, the ghost said, "There's a stump outside, 50 yards away from the house. There's an old jar buried there. You must find it." And with that, she vanished. Now, whether Miss Boone or the other students actually saw the ghost is lost to history. But Clara ran home again to her father, now certain this was not a prank or her wild imagination. Mr. Robertson had heard enough. He demanded a meeting with the headmaster, J.D. Meredith. They both agreed they had to get to the bottom of the story. Mr. Robertson was worried about his daughter's well-being, while Mr. Meredith was concerned about the school's reputation. If word got out that Brinkley Female College was haunted, Meredith knew it would be ruinous. So the next day, they asked Clara to wait in the hallway as they interviewed the other students. As Clara wandered the cavernous hallways alone, the ghost suddenly materialized in front of her again. Before Clara could scream, the ghost said, "Don't be scared. My name is Lizzie. I won't hurt you." As Clara stood transfixed with fear, Lizzie told her Brinkley Female College was once her family home, obtained illegally by the school's founders years ago. Lizzie had returned to right the wrongs done to her family, since all were now dead. In the buried jar were home ownership papers and many unknown valuables. If Clara could just dig up the jar, she could claim sole ownership of the house. But if she did not, Lizzie warned, she would curse all future owners of the property. As the student interviews finished, a distraught Clara ran back home. She told her father she'd rather die than go back to that horrid place. Mr. Robertson now knew that his daughter was deeply disturbed by something he could not understand. In desperation, he asked one of his clients, a spiritual medium known as Mrs. Norse, for help. After hearing her story, Mrs. Norse said there was only one option, a séance to communicate with the dead. Mr. Robertson was highly skeptical, but he agreed. So one evening, Clara was seated across a small table from Mrs. Norse, surrounded by her father and several interested neighbors who normally mock the idea of ghosts and spirits. But as Mrs. Norse repeatedly called out for Lizzie, they sat dumbfounded as Clara suddenly swooned and fell back in her chair. Clara then flailed her arms violently, so much so that she had to be restrained. When she finally calmed, the medium put a pencil and paper in front of her. Clara wrote furiously, page after page, in strange and indistinct scrawlings. But these scrawlings finally assumed readable form, and she began answering questions in writing. The spirit said her full name was Lizzie Davy. The jar was located 5 feet underground, beneath the tree stump she pointed out to Clara. And Clara was selected as the owner of its valuables because she alone had acknowledged Lizzie. With that, Lizzie told the medium she loved Clara, but that she must leave and to awaken her with a kiss. Mrs. Norse did as she instructed, and Claire awoke as if from a dream, with no memory of what had transpired. Needless to say, word spread like wildfire about potential treasure buried on the grounds of Brinkley Female College. Local reporters breathlessly posted story after story. What could be in that old jar? Gold? Jewelry? Money? Claire and Lizzie soon became the talk of the town. Seances became the rage, with spiritual mediums communicating with the dead by banging tambourines, turning tables, or writing on small chalkboards. Claire herself attended some of these seances, communicating with Lizzie with a chalkboard. But the story of Lizzie and the glass jar spread fear as well. Local children suffered horrible nightmares of skeletal ghosts in pink dresses reaching out to them. Citizens were afraid to walk the poorly lit streets at night. For those needing liquid courage, local bartenders began serving special ghost cocktails to their patrons. Meanwhile, at the school, crowds formed to watch the local men dig for the mysterious jar. They became hundreds strong, the police struggling to hold them back. While the headmaster, Mr. Meredith, hated all the attention, he knew the story would never be put to rest until the truth was discovered. After much digging, the men unearthed a pile of bricks and little else. They knew they needed more guidance from Lizzie. They sent word to Clara's family, but she was already on her way to the dig site. Seems Lizzie had appeared to Clara again, angry that Clara herself was not digging for the jar. When Clara arrived, she was asked to call on Lizzie for further instruction where to dig. Lizzie appeared, but only to Clara, reiterating that she must dig for the jar herself, as the contents were meant for her. But as Clara stepped into the pit, she immediately fainted. When she awoke, she claimed to have seen the glass jar in a vision. Knowing Clara could not possibly dig for the jar, Mrs. Norse was called again for a séance at the Robertson home. The medium asked Lizzie if Clara's father could dig on her behalf. Lizzie agreed, but said once the jar was found, it could not be opened for 60 days, or the curse she warned about would occur. So Mr. Robertson returned to Brinkley Female College with a small crew. Within an hour, he finally unearthed a large, moldy jar about 12 inches tall. He could see several bags and a faded brown envelope through the murky glass. As he climbed from the pit, the crowd excitedly screamed for him to open the jar. But Mr. Robertson had seen enough to know Lizzie was not one to be trifled with. He stuck that jar under his coat and swiftly headed home. Now the Robertson family had a new problem. Public interest in the jar was at a fever pitch. Mr. Robertson knew he just had to wait 60 days before cracking it open. First he had to hide it. But where? He chose the only place he knew someone wouldn't want to search, the family outhouse. He tied a rope tightly around that jar and hung it under one of the seats. Even Clara was kept in the dark where the jar was. To satisfy the public, Mr. Robertson announced a public opening of the jar in 60 days' time at the Greenlaw Opera House. Admission would be $1 per person, with proceeds split between the Robertson family and a local orphanage. But the event never occurred. A few days prior, newspapers reported a brutal attack at the Robertson home. During a get-together with friends, Mr. Robertson had heard a noise outside and went to investigate. Worried when he didn't return, his friends found him in the yard, beaten and bloodied. He told them 4 armed men had pounced on him, threatening his life if he didn't reveal the location of the jar. He reluctantly pointed toward the outhouse. Now feeling duped, some local reporters call the whole story an elaborate hoax. With dripping sarcasm, they demanded one of the many spiritual mediums, now all the rage in Memphis, prove themselves by holding a special seance to identify the perpetrators. But the thieves were never identified, and the mysterious jar was never seen again. Worried that his integrity was in question, J.R. Robertson wrote a book on the entire incident. Signed affidavits were provided by prominent Memphis citizens and police officers with first-hand knowledge of the events. Around that time, friends of the Davy family came forward, claiming to have seen Lizzie in her coffin. She'd been buried in her favorite pink dress, with strawberry stains on the front. Shortly thereafter, it was said Clara took part in one last seance to speak to Lizzie. Lizzie told her the jar indeed contained gold, diamonds, and thousands of dollars worth of coins. But Lizzie was not done with Brinkley Female College. Many believe the curse of the treasure jar came to pass. Stained by its reputation as a haunted school, Brinkley closed its doors shortly after the incident. It was converted into apartments, but tenants were hard to come by, too scared of the building's haunted past. Over decades, it decayed into a crumbling tenement building for the railroad. In the 1970s, a paper manufacturer finally tore it down to build a warehouse. Today, the once grand street is yet another faceless industrial sector. Although the house was gone, Lizzie was said to have remained. Workers for the paper manufacturer reported strange noises and sudden temperature drops in the warehouse. Papers would mysteriously fly off the shelves. Perhaps Lizzie was still angry and refused to leave. Clara and her family faded into obscurity as Memphis turned its attention to other matters. The story at Brinkley Female College was largely lost to time. But somewhere out there might be that mysterious glass jar. So next time you're at an antique store in the area, look for a dirty glass jar about 12 inches tall and 10 inches wide. If you see some strange faded papers and small envelopes inside, open it. On second thought, maybe you shouldn't. We hope you enjoyed this story from the Moonlit Road podcast. Please tell your friends, family, and complete strangers about us by rating and reviewing our podcast. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, now X, at The Moonlit Road. Visit our website, themoonlitroad.com, for many more stories not on the podcast. This episode was adapted from Folklore and produced by Craig Dominy. Your storyteller was me, Kathy Camerlin. Audio production by Henry Howard. The Moonlit Road podcast is a production of the Moonlit Road, LLC. See you next time.
That concludes this walk down the Moonlit Road. But you can always come back on your own. It will be here all year round, brimming with captivating and spooky tales for the whole family. The Moonlit Road can be found on the World Wide Web at www.themoonlitroad.com. The stories are always chilling, and the moon is always full. On the Moonlit Road.